Which under the radar wide receivers and tight ends should you be targeting and watching for in your fantasy leagues? We're going to talk about that in today's video. But before we do, as always, if you could like this video and subscribe, that would be fantastic. It goes a long way to helping us. So 1 week of the NFL season is in the books. And the Thursday night game of the week 2 is in the books. And I'm going to try and put out one of these videos once a week, kind of these research videos that are kind of diving into more of the advanced stats, and it's going to range from a lot of different topics, but ultimately what it is, it's going to be trying to help you win your fantasy leagues, giving you that extra information to kind of give you a leg up on your competition. And today what we're going to look at is something that's really, really important, is snap percentage. We talk about it in fantasy football for running backs, that volume is key. Sometimes less about if you're a talented running back or not, but if you're getting the volume. And for receivers and tight ends, you don't get as much volume as you do with running backs, but snap percentage is an underrated thing that I think that goes overlooked by a lot of fantasy managers. Now, of course, the high-end guys that we drafted to be top-end guys, the Jeffersons, the Chases, the Cooper Kupps of the world, although not this year, they obviously get over that 80% snap threshold because they are good. They're good players, and they're out there all the time for that reason. But there are quite a few players, in my opinion, that are reaching that 80% snap percentage threshold that maybe you don't realize. And the reason why I look at 80% is if you're playing 80% or more of your team snaps for the year, that means you're out there most likely on 2 wide receiver sets. And that's just super key to being fantasy successful, in my opinion. It's not the be all end all. You can get a lot of players that are under that 80% threshold or not out there on 2 wide receiver sets that are successful. But the numbers of wide receivers that are successful, that are playing 80% of their snaps, is pretty high. So I went back and looked from 2018 to 2022, so 5 years of data here. There was 99 receivers to play 80% of their team's snaps, and only 10 of them didn't get to double-digit PPR points. 10 of the 99 did not average double-digit PPR points, which is pretty impressive to me. That's about 10%. Only 10% didn't get to that double-digit threshold. So, and I know, double digits, 10 points in PPR isn't going to win you leagues, but when we get to those tough bye weeks during the year, or if there's a lot of injuries piling up, if you get a guy that's giving you 10, 11, 12 points, there's value in that. There's definitely value in that. And these guys, if I had to guess, if they're averaging 10 or 11 points for the entire season, they're probably going to finish as like a top 36 receiver. So they're going to be in that wide receiver 3 range. So once again, 99 receivers from 2018 to 2022 to average 80% of their team snaps. Only 10 of those guys did not reach double-digit PPR points. Only 10. That's pretty crazy, in my opinion. So I'm going to throw out some names out there that maybe you didn't realize were starting 80% or more of their team snaps, and just kind of keep an eye on these guys. Maybe add them to your roster. They could be useful. They could be useful all year. They could be good during bye weeks or injury replacements. But here are some guys that maybe you don't realize. Of course, there's the guys this year, like, again, the Justin Jeffersons of the world are going to be playing 80%, but we know that. So some guys that maybe you didn't realize. Kendrick Bourne for the Patriots had a good week 1. He's playing over 80% of his team snaps after 1 week. KJ Osborne is out there in 2 wide receiver sets for the Vikings. And, we have 2 weeks of data for him, and we saw him hit. We saw him hit in the Thursday night game. I mean, he at least got a touchdown. I don't know what his final stats were. I'm just double checking. 6 for 65 and a touchdown. And, is KJ Osborne better than Jordan Addison? No, he's not. But because he's out there 80% or more of the time, he's going to get catches. He just is. He's going to get catches. So KJ Osborne is a guy that could be a sneaky bye week replacement if he keeps this up, of course. Zay Jones is another guy. Darnell Mooney for the Bears, who had a good week 1. Both those guys had good week 1s. Nick Westbrook-Akine for the Titans was out there during week 1. He was out there 80% or more of the team snaps, and he had a solid, 4-catch, 58-yard game. What is that? That's almost double-digit PPR points. Now, again, are these guys going to keep it up? We don't know yet. We only have 1 week of data, but that's why I'm saying keep an eye on these guys. Watch these guys. Van Jefferson was out there. Terrace Marshall and Jonathan Mingo and Adam Thielen were all out there. So they do a lot of 3 wide receiver sets there in Carolina. None of those guys really hit. Michael Wilson for the Cardinals was out there, and Alec Pierce for the Colts. So, a lot of these guys didn't hit, like the Van Jeffersons, the Michael Wilsons, the Carolina guys, Alec Pierce. These guys didn't hit, but if they are going to be out there on 80% of their team snaps, they are likely to at least have some fantasy weeks. So keep an eye on those guys. I'm not saying you need to drop players to add some of these guys. A couple of them I would, like a Kendrick Bourne or Zay Jones. But keep an eye on these other guys. It'll be interesting to check this out after a couple weeks and just see if these guys are continuing to play 80% of their team snaps. Now I'm going to highlight some wide receivers that aren't playing 80% or playing between that 50 and 74% of the snap share of their team. So since 2018, 90 receivers have had a 50 to 74% snap share percentage and have played 16 games because you get injuries and things like that. At least 16 games and played between 50 to 74% of their team snaps. 90 receivers. Only 22 of those finished in the double-digit range. So 22 of the 90 receivers finished in double-digit PPR points per game. That's not a lot. I mean, that's a decent amount. What's that? I mean, 20% or so, 20 to 25%. So it's not terrible, but there's a lot of receivers in there that are not producing. And so just some names to throw out there that after week 1 have played, or even for Jordan Addison, 2 weeks, have played between 50 and 74% of their team snaps. Jordan Addison's one of them, but he's hit. So, these guys can't hit. I'm not saying they can't hit, but just keep an eye on it because it is a little bit less likely that they don't average or are useful in fantasy football. So Jordan Addison, who's hit the first 2 weeks. Rashid Shaheed had a good first week. He's in that threshold. Nico Collins, Josh Reynolds, all these guys had pretty good games in week 1, but are not playing more than 75% of their team snaps. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, you're not going to worry about those guys. Elijah Moore is a guy that's been drafted. Curtis Samuel, Jaden Reed, Amari Cooper is another one, which I was a little surprised about. Juju is a concerning one that I think a lot of people drafted as like, this guy can at least be a flex for me in a 3 wide receiver league. He had like a little over 50% of the team snaps. Brandon Cooks is another one. And I didn't double check if these guys left with like an injury concern or missed some snaps because of injury. So keep that in mind. You'll know better if you know your team, of course. JSN, Christian Kirk is a little bit concerning. We'll have to see. Isaiah Hodgins, Sky Moore, all these guys did not start in 75% or more of their team's snaps. And so just keep an eye on those guys. Those are all kind of, there's more out there, of course, but those are all kind of, to me, like fantasy relevant guys in terms of, most of these guys were probably drafted. Not necessarily be starters. Some of them were, but not all of them. But they were definitely drafted in the hopes of turning into a starter. And if you're not hitting that 75% or 80% or more of the snap share, the odds are more against you. Not impossible, but more against you. So switching over to tight ends, there's been, since 2018 to 2022, there's been 21 tight ends with an 80% snap share. 15 of those tight ends had 9 or more PPR points. 17 of them had 8.5 or more PPR points. And for tight ends, if you're getting 9, you're probably going to be in that definitely in like the top 15. You might even sneak into the top 12 just because tight ends are so terrible. So 15 of the 21 that are playing 80% of the snaps or more are going to give you at least passable tight end weeks. Or seasons, and 17 of them, give you that 8.5 or more. So a good percentage of them. So just throwing out some guys, that are in that 80% snap share. Hawkinson, Higbee, and Cole Kmet, all those guys are on rosters, in my opinion. So, we don't really need to talk about those guys, but a couple guys to keep an eye on that probably are on the waiver wires or under the radar guys. Durham Smythe for the Miami Dolphins, I think played like over 90% of his team snaps, and he had a pretty solid tight end week. Logan Thomas is another guy that, he had a solid tight end week, and he was out there on more than 80% of his team snaps. Just double checking these guys. Durham Smythe. What is going on? Just looking at Durham Smythe was tight end 16. He averaged 7.5 points. Logan Thomas was tight end 11, had 8.3 points. Sam Laporta was another guy. I'm sure he was on a lot of rosters, but he was tight end 8 on the week. Dawson Knox was out there on 80% or more. He didn't have a great week necessarily, but he's kind of splitting time with Kincaid. Obviously, Dallas Goedert, he's another guy that's on everyone's team. Cade Otton, another guy for the Bucks. Now, he didn't do anything his first week, but he was out there on over 80% or more. So keep an eye on him. Dalton Schultz, I assume, is on most people's teams, at least was drafted. He was tight end 41, so not a good week. And then Chig Okonkwo, who had a goose egg, I believe, was another guy. So all those guys, just keep an eye on them. Snap percentage is very, very important when it comes to fantasy production. It makes sense, right? Oh, out there, you're going to have more opportunities, but I don't think we really take into account some of these guys. You have to be careful with those guys that are playing 60%, 70% of the snaps. They're more likely to have bust weeks than the guys that are out there 80, 90% of the time. We'll probably come out with another one of these videos in a couple weeks, reevaluating this and see which guys are still on this list, which guys have fallen from this list, because I do think it's really important and can kind of give you that little bit of an edge to help you win in fantasy leagues. So that's all I have for you guys today. Short video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it helps you, and good luck this week in week 2, and we'll catch you